let's wrap it up on this one. Once again, guys, please bear with me. I know I'm not presenting too well. I've been under tremendous stress. So picking up, this should be if you are watching this video, the third segment of it. First 45 minutes, second approximately 30, and this one I'm going to try to wrap up as quick as I can. So once again, official U.S. policy governing U.S. cybersecurity defense. Reiterating real quick, because a lot of times a lot of stuff gets deleted or lost. I just touched on the part of the cyber defense that falls under the third category of death by 1,000 hacks, which makes people under this category fair game for full-blown cyber warfare attacks. And under the death by 1,000 hacks, and I once again laughed because that's how I'm dying, but they're gonna be using something a little fancier than computer real soon. Under this doctrine, quote unquote, seeming or a technologically unsophisticated person that commits a seemingly meaningless attack warrants a full-scale offensive operation, because the theory that or the doctrine they articulate is the cumulative effect of thousands or millions of small, innocent, or virtually harmless little attacks. Is once again, attack is very broadly defined. Once again, a attack would watching a illegally downloaded movie would be an attack under this definition and qualify you for a U.S. government sanctioned military covert operation, because that would be intellectual property, IP theft, and furthermore, even better, reasonable suspicion that you may be preparing for an attack. The way it's set up, it's anyone, anyone who's not in the categories that get to use this, take advantage of this national cyber defense policy. This can be targeted by anyone except for the people who are allowed to invoke it, which are, of course, the U.S. federal government, law enforcement, federal law enforcement, U.S. military, all working in conjunction, and all managed through the Department of Defense. By the way, so if you are a potential whistleblower like myself, even if you under the way it's worded, look, if you're an employee for a company and they're getting real concerned because you're sending internal memos saying, look, I'm really worried, this stuff we're dumping into this river is proven to be very bad for human health, and a lot of people are downstream. I'm very worried. I'm really recommending we look into mitigating this. Well, they might, the corporation can, at their discretion, determine whether they have a potential cyber attack or data breach about to occur. That is, are they going to take these documents of the showing, we're dumping these chemicals into the river and give them to the government or the media? We better take preemptive measures. So this lets, once again, it is government, major corporations, and I think the term they use is influential people. Basically, it's all the 1%ers in government plus government officials can all invoke this cyber defense offense policy. So part one, under doctrine of death by 1,000 hacks, essentially anyone who's not in this 1% is fair game, is a target. In fact, there's no age restrictions. So under the doctrine, if your 6-year-old illegally downloads, I don't keep up with Disney movies, so I'm a little old school, Snow White. They, in theory, are eligible for what I've been through, which, like I said, has been the most terrifying experience I could have ever imagined. And I didn't see it coming, Jesus. And now, like I said, going on over a year, and at this point now, I'm clearly, it's clear assassination is imminent. But so we've got that established. Everyone's fair game. Any one of these super powerful people can invoke their rights under this policy, official U.S. policy that's currently our governing policy, not law, because the most relevant law would likely be, I think it's the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, and experts point out, we need to do away with it because it prohibits this vigilante stuff we're doing. And in fact, I think there's a Republican Congressman Grave or something that's trying to push through better legislation to support this stuff, because right now it's just policy. Okay, so now part two. Okay, so anyone, any rich person can. Now when I say this claim, alleging that any person of influence or any big corporation can implement this offensive measure against any U.S. citizen, I'm specifically referring to the fact that they intentionally, in their official publications, I hope to get the link on the web and the video, but like I said, this stuff's not going to see the light of day, but nonetheless I'll put it there. According to their official publications, government publications, authority that is regarding if a cyber attack occurred, who did it, what the appropriate response is, what measures need to be taken, all of it. The authority is left, and what evidence, all this authority they leave. They say they say we're just leaving it undefined because there's a broad number. It's always an evolving, complex. That's another red herring I noticed that NSA likes to use to say why we get away with doing anything anyway. But authority they leave undefined, but clearly implying that private security or corporations or private security hired by very influential people can can on their own determine uh, um, if someone loosely committed attack or might be planning to, cyber attack specifically. Because if they were going to plan an actual like murder or something, yeah, you get treated way better than if you download a Disney movie illegally. Read it yourselves. So the authority of when this vigilante cyber terrorism is deployed can be federal government agents, military, or GE, Time Warner, any major corporation. I'm not naming the one that I think sponsored the initial attack. At this point, though, I have the entire DoD contractor community, government partners, apparently on me. Because I'm a risk to this policy. And I'll try to, as quick as I can, get to that. So authority, so in other words, like I said, British Petroleum, you're a British Petroleum employee, U.S. citizen, and you're on, you work in one of their offices, and you come across, oh wow, we are obviously not reinforcing these wells very well, and it's likely that another catastrophic oil spill is imminent, and no one in the corporation is taking you seriously, but instead they get worried. Okay, you're done. You're an activist. Well, these DoD contractors, they're poorly screened and have virtually no oversight, have full access to this controversial NSA database, public record. And I just, a couple hours ago, had an FBI agent, talked with an FBI agent who acknowledged that very kind of interesting encounter. I will not identify or give the identifying information on the agent. It was a very pleasant exchange, but a little eerie. But nonetheless, they can go and find when you downloaded a movie 10 years ago, but there's no oversight, so they could just falsely report it, or they could have the same DoD contractor first do something from your computer, which they acknowledge is a major threat when deciding who to attack, because of what are called in the same documents, quote unquote, false flag operations. That is, very advanced hackers, more often than not, I've learned, I got tutored by ethical hackers early in the attack in a desperate measure to try to save my life. Very good learning experience, but ultimately not likely the best way to spend my final time in retrospect. Anyhow, yes, advanced attackers are incredibly good at. I've learned that they can basically make any of your devices say whatever they want. So, and for example, in one of my hacked Windows systems, one of my better tutors, pulled some of these more advanced logs, and he, showed me they had what's called a reverse TCP connection, meaning that they can, use remote access to commit crimes from their computer that will flow out of my computer and leave the logs there while I'm trying to just get on my email or watch or research stuff on Wikipedia or whatever. They could be attacking the U.S. military from my computer. So, so that's a potential moral hazard when you put. Well, that's an obvious moral hazard when you put quote unquote unsophisticated individual American citizens that do seemingly meaningless attacks on this list of offensive operations. Big problem. But if a corporation doesn't even really need to or influence, they can just report. We got attacked. They're no part of the corporate and DoD contractor necessarily mandates any or will get any actual oversight, and certainly there is nothing in the policy requiring any sort of judicial oversight on this. This is all a judge, jury, and execution policy that is done by these major companies and elite America's ultra elite. So they get to be their own authority on who attacked, if they attacked, the significance of their attack, if they're a potential attacker, etc. Basically, any reason at all. And then they get to implement hire, big money industry. That's what's going on here. This favors everyone who's rich and influential, and it is the end of everyone who's not. They can essentially declare war on American citizens, and so by what mechanism? Once again, citing official U.S. policy, active defense, which entails offensive operations with both cyber and local components. It's still, I just opened this can of worms and started hopping down the rabbit hole, and I'm not inclined to go much further. I got the message. It's the end of my days. I'd rather just make my peace with God than just keep. I mean, it's already there, so I'm wrapping up this wasted attempt to exercise my First Amendment. So any powerful person can initiate an offensive attack against any non-elite U.S. citizen for any reason. Okay, now how they do it? What's the strategy? They disrupt services, et cetera, but the best part is the U.S. military and U.S. policy recommends that I'm quoting this best I can, but it really is this terrible what they say, that they should make it abundantly clear that they will, quote unquote, destroy everything that person holds dear, quote unquote, or threaten everything that person holds dear, end quote. And they do it. And what do people hold dear? Their jobs, their ability to make an income, their civil rights, their family, their friends. What else does that mean? Everything that one holds dear. Does that mean like your favorite PDF editor? No, it means like hardcore, old school Italian mafia, or not even Italian mafia, had more honor than that. Like hardcore South American drug cartel mentality of make an example by over a prolonged period systematically destroying someone's life, and which obviously affects many third parties associated with that person who may or may not have any may or may not even have done anything wrong. In fact, what this policy does is allows people or allows powerful corporations to stop people from doing things right. Let me tell you, while this policy is there, no, if you do any of these whistleblower things, which is what's published on the public domain that are touted, you're more likely to get what I got. They boast that these attacks are to be custom tailored to each individual, and that they are. They certainly were able to identify how to hurt, humiliate, financially ruin me. I mean, they certainly, and they exploited my weaknesses and did it in a way to mitigate my strengths. I mean, we're talking some dark Machiavellian, CIA assassination type thinking behind these attacks that could result from the official policy from once again illegally downloading a song. And once again, not just cyber, but also I think they use the term physical element, but it's very eerily, vaguely defined. I'm now learning what that entails. It's not good. So this is